But getting back to Gobekli Tepe.
And why is Göbekli, that's actually a great segue to that, though. Like, why is this so controversial within the archaeological world? It seems to me, as a complete outsider, like in the last 50 years or whatever, this could be the wildest thing we've ever found. It's this incredible structure that now has a lot of excavation done, and yet I constantly keep on hearing again from the outside, like the bickering, like, well, no, it doesn't really change history of this or that. So what's the origins of like why people are so like hands up about this?
So what Gobekli Tepe did, and I don't think it's anywhere near as impressive for some of the architecture we're about to talk about with the new sites that are east of it in eastern Turkey. But what makes Gobekli so important is that we know it's not primitive because they have these literally massive T-shaped pillars that were literally multi-ton. So to be able to carve those and then put them in place, aligned with star constellations, we know that they're an advanced people. And I believe they're the same people that made Darren Kuyu, or related to the same group. Now, here's what's so wild about Gobekli.
You believe that, or other people do too?
Many others do as well. What Gobekli Tepe is angering the mainstream community so much for is that, remember that 6,000-year window we talked about? Yeah. Where everything has to fall into it?
Yes.
Gobekli Tepe contains more advanced architecture, more advanced concepts and ideas, and shows that it's a civilization that wasn't primitive and nomadic hunter-gatherers, right?
Right.
When they radiocarbon dated, which means that they find organic matter caught between the stones, which, you know, you can get a relatively accurate date, but it's more like a ballpark. What they found is that, it could be a lot older, not younger. What they found is that the Gobekli Tepe is at least, based on the breakdown of the carbon of it, is at least 11,600 years old.
Right.
Now, what that means is, and I say at least because I think it's older than that, but what that means is that, it means that we had a more sophisticated civilization that's more than double as old as we're told ever was supposed to be around.
When you say you think it's older than that, do you think it could have been older than the Younger Dryas at 12 thought? Really?
Why would any civilization be able to build anything during the Younger Dryas? We're talking about something that most of them didn't even survive. For those who don't understand, the Younger Dryas period is this period of glacial to interglacial into the Holocene. The Holocene is this period of time between this Paleolithic period, and the Holocene is this period in between called the Younger Dryas. And it's a period of Earth history that is catastrophic. And it's about 1,500 years long. That's what I want people to wrap their heads around. Imagine if here we are, we live like about 100 years. Imagine in our lifetime, there's like one crazy event that goes on and it kills like 1 million people. And everyone's like, oh my God, right? Well, now imagine if you had chaotic events that primarily are at the front end and the back end, but some in between, for 1,500 years.
Yeah, everything's dead. So when we say 12,500, is that marking the end of it or the beginning of it?
The end of the Younger Dryas, when we went into a more stable climate, was about 11,500 years ago or so.
And Gobekli Tepe is 11,600. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Actually, I would even go a little bit later. Stabilization, where things were more comfortable on Earth to live, was more like 10,500. So it's about 1,000 years later.
So I understand you're saying like you don't.
I want to actually change that statement. Yeah, it's about 1,000 years later, I'd say.
So you don't understand how anyone during that time period of that shit going on could have possibly built this. But what would make, like, because I know nothing about this. What would make, what's the official term? Carbon dating?
Carbon dating.
So what would make the carbon dating inaccurate? I mean, I feel like from the outside, it sounds like it would go, when you start going that far back, my head just goes to, well, wouldn't it all get foggy no matter how good the tech is? But like, is that a simple explanation, or is it more complicated?
What they do is they date the breakdown of radiocarbon. So they can date what they do is, and I'm not an expert on this, but they basically date the decomposition of it breaking down. And when they can tell how long that takes based on how it breaks down. And so there's science to it. It's very accurate. The problem is you can't date rock. This is where we're going to get into the issue that's going to continuously come up over and over and over again, is that is the only date we can use as a benchmark. It's a benchmark date. I want to make that clear. It's a benchmark date to say, we know that these advanced civilizations are at least this old because of Gobekli Tepe. That's why they don't like it. It changes the entire narrative of opening up the doors to say, this civilization we know is older. Well, what else is older? But we need to lead back to a very important conclusion of a statement we were making. They built Derinkuyu along with countless other cities, and that's only one example. There's some in northern Iran and throughout that region of Turkey. They build these incredible places because they know they need to survive. Then, before they go down in them, before these events of the Younger Dryas, they deliberately bury Gobekli Tepe. Deliberately, and not only that, some believe it took more work and more effort to bury it than it did to build it. And that's not just my opinion.
Why do they say that?
Burying this in the way that they did, they find evidence that they buried it to protect it. And so they buried it in ways where they could protect the pillars and everything, not just throwing stuff in. They literally were trying to make it like a time capsule. Why? Because the best theories on this are that they were planning to emerge from places like Derinkuyu after the event, and then uncover Gobekli Tepe, and then continue on their civilization, and they never uncovered it, which means they never made it out. That doesn't mean nobody did. That doesn't mean nobody survived, and that's what we're going to get into today with a lot of this evidence, because some did survive.
Are they looking for any DNA evidence that could be down there of the dead, and have they recovered anything they think could be leading there?
We don't find any skeletons or dead. It wasn't a burial site. There's no bones.
So no one got left down there as far as we know right now.
There is no evidence. This is the first statement to make. Bones don't last that long. And also, paper doesn't last very long. It is an important concept to get across. First of all, paper lasts 500 to 1,000 years. That's like nothing. That's not even the duration of the Younger Dryas event, let alone, right? Yeah. Bones, it only lasts a couple thousand years, depending on what kind of air is getting to it, what kind of creatures are eating them, like mice and stuff will just eat bones. Oh yeah, I see it all the time in the woods. When you go for hikes, you'll see an antler. No, you'll see not for human bones, but you'll see like an antler where they're eating it all. They'll just eat them. Point is, we don't have any other dating systems or anything available other than radiocarbon dating for this site, and it just means that it's at least 11,600 years old, because radiocarbon dating only gives you a benchmark of. Imagine this. Imagine it's way older than that, but the carbon that's in there, the carbon just means organic matter. Mm-hmm. Imagine the organic matter that they're measuring is only what got in at the very end, like before it was buried. So then we're thinking that it was built during that time, but no, it just means the organic matter was in there. So really what I'm thinking, if we're going to blow this whole thing open, during the last ice age, so pre-Younger Dryas, we're going to call it like 20,000 years ago, just somewhere in there, right? We had evidence around the world of highly sophisticated advanced civilizations that were not, I don't believe were like necessarily spacefaring or had the tech like we have at all.